we're officially underway. So welcome, you guys. I'm happy to see you and to be with you. And for those of you, I think most of you know me, it's Lori Ann Spagna here with you today. And we're going to talk about a number of things. First and foremost, we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on Earth right now. I want to talk about and share about the path of the shadow and the path of the light to help people understand. So even though the primary focus of the call is Sacred Nameology, because I have a class coming up. Also, I want to tell you about what's coming up. And also, I want to mention about the predictions call. I do want to talk for Lightworkers about the path of the light and the path of the shadow as it relates to the year ahead. And then at the very end, for those of you who are still with me, I want to do a little healing work for humanity, which is always a good thing. Because whenever we gather, we can do anything we do to support humanity is always a good thing. And somewhere in between there, I'm hoping to take some of your questions. So not personal questions like but more like questions about the topic and what we cover and what's going on Earth, so I can help and support, right? And if it's like my cat's paw has got a bruise on it, that's what I mean by not personal questions. It's not necessarily related to the topic of the call, and so we just try to keep it on par with what we're covering today. But thank you guys so much for showing up and for being here. I'm really happy to be with you, and it was really impromptu, and so I really get it that you have other things to do with holidays and stuff, but I think it'll be worth your time and energy. So I'm grateful to you guys for being here. And then, yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, I think it'll be within an hour is my plan. Somebody asked. Sarah, I love you so much. You always come to, and Carrie. Hi, Carrie. And hi, Sarah. I love seeing the people that I know over and over again. And on the audio portion, I know Therese is here, and David, thanks for being here. And yeah, it's just great to see you guys. All right, so yeah, so what I'm going to do right before we talk about path of light, path of dark, I'm going to just briefly mention, because there are things coming up that people are interested in, and I'm not trying to make it. This is not like a heavy sales call. It's a community gathering. I'm just happy to be with you guys. It's the holidays. I wanted to say hello to the community and offer support. But I also do want to let you know ways that you can go, deeper and get more. So I'm just going to briefly, before we get underway, mention some upcoming things for our community that may be of service and support to you. The first and main one is the 2022 predictions call that's coming up. Now, that predictions call, I've been working on it for probably about 3 or 4 months now. It's intensifying right now, of course, because we're in the middle of what's called a gateway period. And I don't have a ton of time to go into this, because just this weekend, I did a gifted community call, which Sarah, I know you were on, a number of you were on it. We did healing for the earth on that gifted community call. That was on my Facebook Live, right? And that video, I will be sharing it with the community for people who missed it in my next newsletter, which will go out probably this weekend, because I got my video guy to upload it to YouTube. So even if you're not on Facebook, a lot of people aren't, it'll also be on YouTube, and I'll share it with the community. Oh, thanks, Carrie, for saying I look great. That's so nice of you. So that video will be there, but there's some really great anchoring, healing, grid work, light work that we did on that call. We're going to do, instead of the earth this time, we're going to do the higher realms, but stay with me for that. But in any case, we covered stuff about the prediction stuff and the gateway period. So I'm not going to repeat that, right? The gateway that we're in, I'll just say the basics. It officially opened, you could say, at the 11/11 master portal. It's escalating and intensifying now. It definitely heightened through the eclipse season that we just kind of completed. The first eclipse window or the last eclipse of this year was the eclipse that happened on 11, oh my goodness, at the end of November, 28th, 27th, somebody put it in there, you guys know. And then the next eclipse we had was December 4th. We finished that's the start of the new year. Now, the next part of this gateway will be 12/12. That's a big, big major opening. And I wrote an article on this in the last newsletter. So all of that, that's what we're in right now. And that's why I'm doing these community calls, just to support people, but also to tell you what's coming up and what's going on 12/12, which is a major part of, it's a major gateway into the future, so to speak, the next year. That's when we're doing the predictions call. So I've been working on that for 3 months. It's been heightening through this eclipse window and this gateway portal. There's a lot to cover. That will be easily a 4-hour call, and it will include channeled information. So the main thing to understand about the work that I'm doing these days mostly, except for the Nameology class, which will kind of be the last in that series, I'll explain, but the main thing about that is in the physical world, the information, the energy, and the consciousness coming from the physical world is primarily, not primarily, mostly, and not entirely, but largely inaccurate. And so we're reaching to the higher realms, so to speak, or the non-physical of higher intelligence, for the best languaging, to get information and energy to help us navigate this time, because it's unknown to us. We're going through unknown phases of our existence, right? Unknown aspects of our reality as we shift and level up individually as a collective. Thank you, Carrie. 11/28 was the first eclipse, the end of the eclipse for last year. So, okay, so the 2022 predictions webinar, where we'll cover some of this and so much more about how to navigate, which will include channeling from the higher realms to help us and to bring in information that we can rely on from higher realms for those who are choosing to expand and up-level our consciousness, which is our community. That call is on 12/12, since it's a portal date. So we'll be doing some amazing high vibe work in there, and especially understanding how to navigate the year ahead. And mostly just knowing, like, what can we foresee so that we can navigate it best, so that we can energetically align with the path of the light, which is part of what we're going to talk about today. Anyway, if you're wanting to join us for that and you haven't yet, I extended the regular base rate, even though it's easily a $444 call, with all of the time and energy and expertise I've put into this, all the prep work, hours and hours and years, I don't know even how to justify that. It's just worth a lot more than I'm charging, but that rate I extended, the 111 rate, for a little longer. So if you want to join us for that, please get in at the live events tab on my website at lauriespagna.com. When you hover over live events, you'll see the 2022 predictions call info. Okay, the other quick upcoming thing right before I get in there, a couple other things, is obviously Sacred Nameology class. This is the one, I've taught it twice before. This is the last time I'm ever going to teach this class, ever, live. The reason is that as much as I love it, it's a slight detour from my primary core mission, and I know it. I know it's a slight detour. I did it for fun. It's fun. It's so much fun to learn nameology, and we will talk about it more. And I love it so much, and I think it's a fabulous tool. I just can't even tell you what a fabulous tool it is until you start utilizing it. Like, one of my friends right now, she has a boyfriend, and I mean, I did his name. And when I first started doing his name 3 months ago, she was like, I don't see it, I don't see it, I don't see it. And now 3 months in, she's like, I see it. And for her, it's like she's now navigating a challenging time in that relationship, because she's realizing, like, oh, there's some things here. I'm not exactly sure if it's for my most benevolent best, right? And the answers are in the name. But the other day we were like out trying to have a good time, and she's all upset because she's like, what did I get myself into? How did I get myself in this? And you can kind of see that stuff ahead. Now her heart's already in it, and she's like, struggling to kind of make sense of if it's good for her. And if she had kind of used the nameology, she might have gone in with eyes a little more open, a little more discerning, and not just kind of left into the deep end all at once kind of thing. Not to say that it could ever, it's only about discouraging you from things. It just helps you. It's another way to gain clarity on things. That's all. Another way to see and use discernment at times when we need our discernment most on planet Earth. So anyway, the Sacred Nameology class, which is really fun and also a fabulous tool, begins just after that 2022 predictions call is completed. You can find that also on the website under Lori Spagna. We'll talk about it some more today, but it starts on Tuesday, December 14th, 2 days later, and also on Tuesday, December 21st. So it's 2 classes. They're just about an hour each, a little over an hour each. And then there's another class that's going to be like a bonus Q&A and also some extra bonus fun stuff. So, yeah, and that's at lorispagna.com under the Live Events tab. And then coming into the new year, there's an impromptu group channeling and healing event. That's where I do all channeling. And then there's a 5-week Ascension support group coming up, which is where I do really one-on-one work. It's in a group setting, but you get so much one-on-one attention in there. And it's how I've shifted to try to do my best to serve as many people as I can inside of a healthy, safe environment where it's appropriate, healthy sharing and communicating where everybody benefits in a place where I can just be like 100% present for everybody in a way that's really for the group's highest and most benevolent best without us having to hold back because it's public or because somebody might get offended. Everybody's in there because they want to be, and they want to do the deep dive work, and they want to uncover and discover what it is that's going to elevate them. Okay, so that's coming up too in the year ahead. I'm not going to talk too much about that stuff now. And then, of course, the next DNA activation call will be February 22nd, which is 2/2/2022. It's a major portal. The month of February, that's going to be a big gateway. But again, you can see all that under the Live Events tab at lorispagna.com. And that's where you can register for that stuff. All right, so let's get into today. I want to talk about the path of the shadow and the path of the light. And I want to help people understand this because I think most people don't really understand this. And it's what's going on right now. And even when I've communicated it to a lot of more advanced light workers, even most light workers, we've been trained to believe that you have a path of love and a path of fear. And we associate the path of love with the path of light, and we associate the path of fear with shadow. And that's not wrong. That's not inaccurate. That's accurate. It's just that now these paths are a little intermingled and at the same time extremely divided. And so there's been overlap. So the path of love, which is a path of light, and the path of fear, which is a path of shadow, is now the path of love also has some shadow in it. And the path of fear has both shadow and light in it. So we want to get these sort of more clarified. That's the purpose of where I'm starting off with this call, to help people. Because you get to be on either path and you get to be on both, but not both paths are clear. So the path of the shadow right now is a path of restriction and limitation. And that doesn't mean that it doesn't have love in there. And that doesn't mean that it's entirely based on fear. So the path of restriction and conformity, compliance, darkness, shadow, uncertainty. There's not as good discernment here on this path of the shadow. but there's still love in there. So you have people, for example, in Australia, as a good example, who are really right now, this is going to change, but there's a lot of compliance in a lot of parts of Australia right now, a lot of compliance. That doesn't mean there's not lots of love there, and that doesn't even mean there's not even some light. So I'm just using that as an example. But we have to understand the path of the shadow, because a lot of us are love and a lot of us are light, but we might be going through a path of the shadow. So the path of the shadow is compliance, conformity, restriction, limitation, enforcement. Force and enforcement is typically in the path of the shadow, and a lack of clarity, a lack of discernment, typically, but not entirely. So let's use a really good example. You have people walking around the planet right now who really, they are not, and by the way, this is not necessarily, in this case, entirely fear-based. So we might perceive it to be fear-based, and for the most part it is, but not entirely. So let's take an example of somebody who typically really is in a path of love. They're kind, they're benevolent, they care about the world. They might be a light worker, but maybe they live in California, as an example. This is just an example, just one example. And maybe from their perspective, it's right for them to do COVID tests or to submit to a lockdown or to agree to paperwork, right? What is the paperwork called? Vaccine passports. But they're a light worker, and maybe from their perspective in that experience, which is a path of the shadow, maybe by doing so from their perspective, they believe that they will be transforming that experience by going through it. And there's no wrongness to that, no judgment. But it is still nonetheless a path of shadow. It is a path of conformity, and it is a path of conforming to what seems to be the mainstream narrative. It is a path of not necessarily having discernment, because it's not to say that in that moment they might not have discernment. It's just another example of not having discernment in the path of the shadow. Is somebody doesn't know what's for their best. They can't decide. They don't know, is this for my best or is that for my best? Or they're maybe not even thinking what's for my best. That's a path of the shadow. Another example of the path of the shadow is any form of anger that is portrayed in a way that is projected at another. This is going to become a big issue next year. So the moment we're angry about anything, triggered or judging something for the way we perceive it to be in that moment, that's a path of the shadow. Someone out there is doing something that I don't agree with. Someone out there is doing something wrong. This person out there is attempting to do something, and that's wrong. That's a path of the shadow. Why is that a path of the shadow? Not only because it's easy for us to identify it in this example because it has judgment, but it could be even something that we disagree with the way they're doing it. The reason it's a path of a shadow is because in the path of the light, which I haven't explained yet, we take 100% responsibility. So the anger is our trigger. The person we're projecting it on isn't the problem. They're just doing what they're doing. There could be a million reasons they're doing what they're doing. And it's none of our business what they're doing, really. Right? So but when we get mad at someone because of something they're doing or we judge it to be wrong, now we're in this right-wrong. That makes it the path of the shadow. Whereas in the path of the light, we take 100% responsibility. So let me talk a little bit more about the path of the light. The path of the light, let me just ask first, before I say that, if I have addressed enough of the path of the shadow, because there's more in the shadow. Oh yes, there's more I have to say about the shadow before I go to the path of the light. Path of the shadow is always about lack and limitation. So that includes aspects of not enoughness. So in the path of the shadow, there's not enough. That's always a matter of money, resource, materialism, things, not enough love, not enough time, not enough kindness. And I'm a person who feels like I walk the light almost all the time, but I can tell you a lot of times I feel like I don't have enough time. So you see, you can cross both sides, but you got to know which one you're in, and you got to be aligned with, for the most part, to the best of your ability. If you're a light worker, you want to be in the light, but that doesn't mean you're not going to be in the shadow sometimes. Okay, but so the path of the shadow of not enoughness is the idea that there's not enough to go around. Now, let's use an example of what a lot of people these days are doing is this stocking up principle. I'm stocking up on food for the future, water. I'm hoarding. Hoarding is a not enoughness energy. I don't have enough, so I have to hoard. Whether it's hoarding clothes or crap in your house, you know, the hoarder shows. I never watched them, but I have a friend who likes watching it. And I don't know, she's fascinated by human consciousness. So she said, it's interesting what we watch. But anyway, any form of hoarding, any form of stockpiling from a place of fear, there's not going to be enough. That is a path of the shadow. Whereas, if someone says, you know, I know that on Sundays they run out of XYZ product and I'm not going to be able to get to the store, I'm going to just get a little extra so that I don't have to, you know, go back to the store for another week because I know by the time I usually go, they're out of it, so I'll just pick up a little extra. But I know there'll be more in the right time. I'll get it when I'm, you know, it'll be plenty when I'm there. Like, by the time I do get there the next time. Like, that's an abundant path, right? Or if I don't have enough money to pay for something, that's a path of the shadow. That's like so big on the earth right now. I don't have enough, I can't afford, right? That's a big, big deal because those people are not in their full consciousness yet to understand this path of the light. The path of the light does not function from lack or limitation. So in the path of the light, with the example of, and I'm going to explain more about the path of light, but I haven't gotten into that as much, but it would be from the place of there's always enough. My source is my supply. I live in the infinite supply. The infinite supply is available to me. When I need it, I will have it and even more. That and even better. That and even more. As long as it's all positively uplifting, right? That's more of the path of the light. So, okay, I hope these are so far some good examples to help you understand the path of the shadow. I wrote all these notes and now I can't find them because like I said, I felt a little lacking in time. And I didn't get everything out because I always have it in my mind what I want to share. But most important to understand is that in general, the path of the shadow, the other big thing of the path of the shadow, which I haven't said that, I think I have, is restriction. Did I say that? Restriction, which means lack of freedom, rules, regulations, enforcement of laws. And typically, if you're a person who prefers the path of the light, that doesn't feel good. That never feels good when somebody tells you, one of the key words in the path of the dark is no. No, that's not possible. No, that won't work. The other thing is, like, last week I was trying to upgrade my YouTube channel. And I had to give them all kinds of paperwork and jump through like a million hoops. And it was like a lot of work. And I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, I don't really care. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I don't care. And so, but I have to fill out all these forms to get them to be able to, like, put it out more, like to expand the audience, to reach more people, because they make you jump through a lot of hoops. And after I jump through all the hoops, a week later, it's like, oh, your forms aren't completed properly. You have to do some more. It's like, that's the path of shadow. It's like hoop jumping, hoop jumping, hoop jumping, hoop jumping. The belief system in the path of the shadow is like, It's so hard. You always know you're in the path of the shadow because things are hard, and it's a struggle, and it's extra work, and it's so laborious, and it's based on electrical or energetic output. You're always, because the path of the shadow it is a hard work path. It's like you have to do so much work and labor. You have to put your energy into this in a way that's depleting and exhausting, right?
Call from
Okay. Sorry, it's just a telemarketer call. So in this path, you're depleting energy because it's not typically consciously aligned with this infinite supply of energy, this infinite source. So clearly, if we're going to talk about the path of the light by contrast, what we're talking about then here is a path that has a lot more clarity. In general, this path has an unlimited source, connection to source. Along this path, it typically is a path where there's a lot more freedom, there's a lot more latitude, and there's a lot more potential. Like, when I say a lot more, really it's infinite, but we're just starting to level into that, and we don't know what's infinitely available to us. We don't know what options there are. So a great example of how we don't know and how there are infinite options is, let's say you're one of the people who feels that you're being forced to take a vaccine or some sort of jab. I should have said that word in case this video goes somewhere else. But anyway, let's say you feel that you're being forced against your will either to take a jab or to wear a mask. Let's just use that as an example, because some people do agree with it. But if you feel that you're being forced against your will, and it's either this or a job, you either have to quit your job or you have to get it, as an example, or you have to get it or else be forced to stay home, as is happening in some countries. That's a path of the shadow, right? But if you're willing, you can traverse just within your consciousness, that you understand, to the path of the light, which will present a new opportunity. It will reveal a new opportunity that was unknown to you before, because this is in the shadow. And in the light, a new opportunity exists that's better for you. A new job, a better job, a move to another country that suddenly you didn't know, or something better, something else. So, but you see, in the shadow, you cannot see that, and if you don't know that the path of light is available to you, you will not know. That is the most important at this moment message I can say, because people who hang out in the shadows don't understand that there's always a better option for them, because they can't see because they're in the shadow, they're in the dark. So they don't know. And this is part of why we shift into the light worker role, because the light opens up more. Like, what is the most valuable thing you can do at this time on planet Earth? And I've talked about this a lot in the last couple of years on my videos and interviews, is to collect perspectives. That's the most valuable thing you can collect. That's the most valuable thing you can have besides your own DNA. The most valuable thing on Earth is DNA, but the most valuable thing you can collect is not DNA from others, is perspective, awareness. Because the moment you realize there's got to be something better, if you're on the shadow path, the path of the shadow, there's got to be something better that's more aligned. You can switch over to a new perspective. Oh, I didn't see that. Oh, I didn't know that. You have to be willing to make the shift from path of the shadow to path of the light. So with path of the light, which is a path that will always yield new opportunities, greater successes, more abundance, better health, better well-being, more happiness, more joy, more love. That is a path of light. It always will yield that. The path of shadow will ultimately yield that, but not in the short term. And not every time. It'll keep bringing you down, further down the shadow. Further, further, further down the shadow. Even if in the moment, the path of the shadow does not seem so bad. So in the moment, for example, somebody could be being told, let's use another example besides this whole pandemic thing. Let's say the path of the shadow is telling you the way out of this is to another planet. But you don't really know all the picture. For all you know, they're shuffling people off to another planet who are going to become enslaved on another slave planet. For all you know, you don't know. But eventually you get there and you start to wake up and you realize the best way out is death. I'm just giving it an example that could potentially be true from somebody who's speaking who looks like a lizard. Okay, if you guys follow me, you know what I'm saying right now. I'm talking in a little bit of code. If you don't know me, that's okay, you can ask. So I'll be clear, but I'm just using an example because when I do gifted calls for the community, I have to be a little more, I have to give more latitude for people. So, okay, I hope this is making sense. So path of the light is your path that always aligns you with clarity because the light has no shadow in it. Not really. Only moments of shadow. And a good example of where a shadow will come in the light into the light is, let's say, you're a person who's being challenged by religious beliefs. And you're now in an argument and debate in your mind with God. Let's just say you're struggling with God because how could God do this to the planet right now? Or how could God let all this suffering happen? Or how could, right? So you're in the light, but the shadow is in the light in this case. This is an example. The shadow's in the light because there's still lack of clarity. And the moment you kind of go to light and you say, God, source, or however you identify, please give me a new truth. Help me understand. Help me see better. Help me see clearly. Show me what I'm missing. Right? These are called lofty questions, by the way. Questions that up-level you into the light. The moment you do that, within a few days, maybe a day, maybe a week, maybe a couple weeks at most, you'll get the answer. Why will you get the answer? Because that's law of cause and effect, by the way. Law of cause and effect, which is a universal law, will always provide an answer to a question if the question was not provided an answer to by the person who asked the question. Does that make sense? Okay, so this is an example of coming into the light with shadow. Right? You don't necessarily, you're missing something, or you're being challenged by something in your life, or you're like having one of those, what I call come to Jesus moments, or hit the floor moments, where you're just challenged by something, and that's an example of the shadow in the light, but you still go to your source, your infinite source of infinite wisdom, infinite knowledge, infinite consciousness, infinite love, and you're struggling, you're challenged with something, but you're praying. Or maybe you can't pay your rent that week, or that month, and you're like, or you're going to get evicted, and you're like, okay, I know that I've been following the path of the light, but I, at this time, have been really challenged with the money situation. Show me how to navigate this time, or show me how to reveal this money to me so that I can do the fair energy exchange that's required for this rent, or this house, or this class, or this workshop, or this retreat, or this car payment, or whatever it is. So that's an example of the shadow coming into the light, but it's still the path of the light. Okay? All right. Does all this make sense to you in terms of path of the light and path of the shadow? I want to hear from you guys. And I would love to hear your questions or comments as it relates to this, because I think the reason I was so inspired to do this is that we sort of don't really understand right now. The path of the dark is getting stronger on planet Earth. Have you not seen? In the path of the light, it has appeared a little bit in the last year to some degree, depending on your viewpoint and your opinion. It may have seemed as if the path of the light was not quite as strong. And it's mostly because even in the path, right, Carrie just said the dark is getting stronger. I'm so glad you said that, but it's not true, I promise you. It's not true. And I'm going to lead you into more of that. I hope you see, I hope. But let me just say, it has seemed that way. Totally agree with you, Carrie, and thank you for your comment. Because The reason it seemed that way is because so many light workers who are on the path of the light brought shadow into the path of the light. No wrongness here, because there was confusion. This was so confusion. Like, how could this be? How could this be happening? And so it seemed as if even the path of the light got dimmed. Good news, major turning point will happen next year, not right away. Well, okay, I'll talk about that some more. But most of us we're going to cover the predictions call. But so, if you understand these are two paths, and how the path of the light seemed like it was losing ground, and just because there was so much confusion in there, and how could all this happen, and then the light workers don't really know what's for their most best, that's why the two fields sort of got enmeshed and entangled a bit. And at the same time, when you understand bifurcation, you can see very clearly between the path between fear and love. That is a very clear path now. That's bifurcation in a sense. So, oh, there's so many things I got to say. Hold on just a second. Let me get quiet. So this path of the light is going to become more clear in the year ahead, which is good news. And I'll get into that a little bit, although, again, we cover that on the predictions. We'll be covering it more on the predictions call. But the key to understand with regard to this is that if you can understand at any moment that which path you're on, in a sense, because you're always, like, you're going to vacillate, but your job as a light worker or as a being who's choosing to awaken, I mean, if you're on this call, that's who you are, I'm assuming, because I don't really attract too much of anyone else, then your choice is to find within yourself where is the solution to bring you into the light. And the other big thing about this, of course, is so much to realize that the path of the dark is always fueled by the density, the gravity of the third dimensional realm. The path of the dark is fueled by the energy of the third dimensional realm. And that path, you know, it's fueled typically by fear, doubt, skepticism, and uncertainty, anxiety, shame, blame, and wrongness. So the path of the light is fueled, yes, by love, of course, but it's also fueled by truth. So in the old paradigm, truth doesn't really exist in a way. There's very few absolute truths in the old paradigm. It's all perspective, right? The old paradigm. Well, you see it this way, I see it that way. I'm right, you're wrong. Who's right, who's wrong? I mean, it's just argument and debate over who's right and who's wrong, and both are right and both are wrong, and neither's right and neither's wrong. There's very few absolute truths if you really start searching in the third dimensional paradigm. Now, people could argue and disagree with me, but that's only because you're not seeing it from my perspective, right? That's the whole 3D thing. When you get to the higher realms, you understand there is absolute truth. There really is absolute truth. And what that absolute truth is universal laws, universal law. And that absolute truth is undeniable. Everything else is perspective, right? But you have to know what those absolute truths are. So the path of the light is guided by truth. There is clarity in there. There is lots of clarity because there's very little shadow. And overall, the path of the light is about expansion. It's about up-leveling. And it is definitely about taking 100% responsibility for your part in this game. And we call it a game because it's the game of life, right? It's the reality of all that is, that we are experiencing. And so this is a path of taking 100% responsibility. And that includes responsibility for your own emotions, and that includes responsibility for your own thoughts and beliefs, and that includes taking responsibility for your own health. That does not, so you could be in the path of the light And you could honestly believe that a vaccine is for your best, and you can do blessings on it, and you can do healings on that vaccine to receive, I don't really like the word vaccine because what's going on right now is not a vaccine. It is a inoculation. It's not the same thing as a vaccine, but I'm using that word. Anyway, and in your case, personally, for you and your life situation and your circumstances, maybe it is. Maybe it is. And so you can be in the path of the light making that choice. Just want to make sure, help you understand, because this light and dark, they are not mutually exclusive. That is why it's so important, what I'm trying to get. But full responsibility is path of the light. 100% responsibility for one's experience, for one's emotions, for one's thoughts, for one's beliefs, for one's perspective, for one's ideologies, for one's behaviors. If you cast out anger at somebody, if you do what I call puking in their inbox, like, you write someone a nasty, gnarly email, puking in their inbox, you are the person responsible for that, not the other person. They did nothing. They're just being who they are. But you've got a problem with something, so you had to puke something in their inbox. Okay, that is a shadow aspect, right? And so then the person, this is what I mean, 100% responsibility. If you have health issues, okay, I think I've said this enough. I don't think I have to belabor, but it's just such a big thing because in the path of the shadow, there's always the responsibility is on someone else or something else. The reason you can't afford your rent is because you got fired. The reason you have this sickness is because somebody else put toxins in your water. The reason you hurt your back is because you lifted something. Okay, that's crossing the paths of the shadow, but it's still kind of blaming it on the something that you lifted. It's still a little bit crossing. The reason you have your allergies is because you're allergic to something out there. That's all 3D. That's all shadow stuff. It's very hard for us to see that. Most people don't want to take responsibility for themselves. That's why we've been stuck in this 3D. Oh, I know what. The path of the shadow is resistance. Oh, this is such a big one. So big. The path of the light has no resistance. Almost none. It's not compliant. Big difference. Compliance is, I don't like it, but I have no choice. Well, it's the way it is. Well, I have no other option. That's compliance. There's still resistance in there. Path of the light is, the primary word in the path of the light is yes. 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 It is not a resistance. There's no resistance. Now, that's not a healthy boundary. A healthy boundary is different. Let's don't confuse no resistance with a healthy boundary. A healthy boundary is, I'm sorry, but if you curse at me, or I'm sorry, but if you slander me, or I'm sorry, but if you puke in my inbox, I'm going to do this. I will not tolerate that. If you puke in my inbox, I will unsubscribe you from my newsletter. That's just what I do. I don't want that in my inbox. I'm doing my best on planet Earth, and I don't need nasty comments. Or if somebody, like that's a boundary. If you hit me, or if you slap me, or if you are cruel to me, I will no longer keep company with you. That's a healthy boundary. That's a healthy no. That's path of love. I love myself too much to allow you to abuse me or to hurt me, because that is not helpful. That is just hurtful. That's a healthy boundary. But in the path of the light, we're always talking about the primary energy is yes. There's non-resistance. It's generally a very strong feminine allowing energy, but it has a healthy masculine in there too. So it's a balanced, healthy masculine and feminine. No is no, yes is yes, but the energy is allowance, flow, ease, grace, effortlessness. That's the path of the light. So taking responsibility in the path of the light, for example, if we have, in the example of an allergy, the path of the light, which might be a little bit in the shadow for a moment, would say, where or why did I create this allergy in myself? And for what reason? And how has it served me? How is it serving me? Do I still need it? Those are all lofty questions that expand and elevate more of the light and get you into more clarity, taking responsibility. So if I'm angry, why am I angry? Why am I triggered by this? Why am I upset by this? That's a path of the light where there might be a little bit of cloudy judgment, but it's opening up more. What caused me to hurt my back? What was it within me? So the path of the light is filled with, yes, lofty questions, really important, asking open-minded, open-ended questions, being willing to know truth, because there is truth in the path of the light. Whereas the path of the dark, there's no truth. There's just a lot of perspectives. Or even if there is some truth, most of it's still based on some kind of scientific, even the truth that's in the path of the shadow is based on some scientific awareness that could easily still be overturned or changed again in the future or rewritten. Like, great example is tobacco, right? In the 1950s, tobacco was healthy. Right? This is, by the way, what we're seeing on planet Earth right now is a tobacco moment, right? Tobacco is healthy for you, and then 20 years later, tobacco's like, skull and bones skull and bones symbol, right? So that's an example. What could be true one moment can be changed in the next moment, because that's the path of the shadow. And we will be seeing that in the coming year. We will be seeing, this is going to come out in the predictions call, but we will be seeing that the vaccines, so-called, their inoculations, they really don't, they don't do what they're said to do. There's really, I don't want to go too far into that, because it's like it's stuff I'm covering in the predictions call. But okay, so the main reason I'm saying this is that you want to know what path you're on. That's all. It's so important right now. I can't even say it enough. And not only do you want to know what path you're on, you want to basically, I'm assuming if you're like me and you are a light worker of some kind, or you're a part of the indigo family tribe, or one of the indigo, the guardian races. We are the guardian races. We are the indigo family tribes. If you're on a path of awareness, a path of service and contribution, and a path of up-leveling, that means you already know you have to take 100% responsibility. That's why you're here, right? And it's not always easy, because taking 100% responsibility sometimes means we do have to embrace our own shadow aspects. Let's say, you're a person who really doesn't want to do house cleaning anymore, but you know that you have to, right now you got to do some house cleaning so that you can start your business as a healer. This is an example. Okay, that's still taking responsibility, even though you're doing something you don't really want, temporarily as a short-term role. But I can assure you, even if you really don't want to do the housekeeping, there's an even better option for you, because the path of the light will always show you something better when you ask, what would be better? What could be better? I know that's your example, Sarah. So, okay. One other piece, and then I'm going to go to whatever questions you may have put in here, because I really do want to take your questions. I want to address what Carrie said about the dark getting stronger. But what's so important, if you really understand, this is so juicy what I'm giving you, is that you must is, my word, it's up to you, it's up to all of us to search and excavate within ourselves. Everywhere we are harboring, I want to use the right words, thoughts, beliefs, opinions, and or ideologies that are keeping us trapped in the shadow. Because those are our problem. they're our problem. And that's what it means to take 100% responsibility. We have to go into that range of where we really look at our own thoughts and beliefs and opinions. What is it that I'm thinking that's causing and or contributing to this? What is it that I'm believing that's causing and or contributing to this? And also, in addition to that, we have to be sort of fearlessly going after our fear. It used to be, when I started on my consciousness journey in a conscious way, it used to be like back when before Maui, because I lived in Maui for 2 years, many of you know this, and that's where I had like my most radical transformation there. It used to be what I was trying to do was face my fear so that I could move through it. It was a really stupid thing for me to say to the universe, but I mean, my fears were just coming out. I was like, I got almost killed, literally almost, by my own fears. But I was trying to process them in a way that I thought was healthy. No, it's not that you have to face them, because I wanted to be able to go through them and not have them. That was faulty thinking on my part. All you have to do is be able to identify them and liberate yourself from them so that you're resolved from them. And that could just be a fear of not having enough money, or a fear of not having enough food, or a fear of getting COVID. I promise you, this one I can promise you, is that that's why I love those DNA activations that we do. By the way, if you never got a DNA activation from me, or with me, it's a better way to say it, for immunity and imperviousness to COVID, please go to my YouTube channel, search Lori Spagna, Codes of Immunity and Imperviousness. There is a gifted DNA activation there. Just keep listening to it, especially because if you've never done one with me, you know, that stuff works. Because once you don't have a fear of something, you start walking around Earth, you're free, completely free of the fear. It can't get you. It can't get you. If only people understood. Oh, it's also good to clear your fear of death, by the way. This is a very good time. Very good time on planet Earth to clear fear of death. Because the fear of death creates, you know, it's an entanglement that you get in, and then it'll trap you. I don't want to go down that death doorway right now, because that shadow is filled with fear, the shadow path. It's not that the light path doesn't have fear. It's that the light path has the tools and the solutions for how to get yourself out of the fear. Okay, I hope this makes sense. And I hope this is helpful. So just quickly to address Carrie. Okay, this came from channeled information and from the channeling calls, which if you have never joined me now, I'm doing them more regularly. When I first started doing channeling, I first started doing like direct channeling, which my channeling is very different from old paradigm channeling, which is that the soul kind of gets out of the way and lets another soul or consciousness inhabit their body. And in that case, they're kind of like, don't have their free will consent about them in a sense to filter if they want or choose. But more importantly, they have sort of given dominion of their body over to other being. I don't do that. I don't give dominion over my body. I am sovereign and a single soul occupant. I have 100% dominion over my space. So when I'm channeling, I am merging in consciousness with the collective that I am part of. And anyway, I started doing those initially. I started doing them the first time I ever did a group channeling. First, I started doing them just for one-on-one friends. And then I started doing them in a group channeling in Florida I guess it was about 8 years ago. I had just moved here to Florida, and there was a group, the dragons came in. I mean, it was so good. I was like astounded how good it was. And I was like, I got to do more of this. But if you haven't joined me for channeling, and now I used to call them impromptu channeling calls. I mean, they're still called that, right? The next one's coming up in January. It's on the live events tab, right under there if you want to join me, because this is where I get a lot of this information from now. I used to do it on my own, and I just ask and I work. Now I'll channel if things come through. It's so amazing. The group gets the benefit. But so what I was about to say was that that's where this information I'm about to say came from one of the channelings. That it used to be prior to 2000, the year 2000, 1900s, the shadow and the light were equally balanced on planet Earth, 50-50. As of the year 2000, which Sacred Numerology 2000, duality intensified. And that meant that the light gained a little bit of power, in the sense that now you've got 51-49. So actually the light has gotten stronger. Now this is, you can, you know what I mean, you can use it as a perspective and you can disagree, but I really do trust my channels. I really do. I've been doing it now so long, I just am amazed by what comes through to help us. So to me, that is all good news. And what's going to happen in the coming year, and again, we'll go into this more in the predictions call, but more and more light will increase. You will see this because truth is increasing. Truth is increasing on the planet because this channeled information and higher consciousness, people are up-leveling, people are expanding, people are excavating. They're getting out of the shadow. They're choosing to get out of the shadow because it's too restricted, too conforming. It's too much control, domination, manipulation, secrecy, coercion. That's all in the shadow. That's all in the path of the shadow. And yeah, fear. Who wants to hang out in the land of fear? Right? And sadly, really sadly, and I don't say this without compassion, but sadly there's also is a lot of death there. And much of it, you know, in the higher realms, nothing's unnecessary. Everything's on purpose. But, you know, it's just so sad that people are transitioning in some, especially, you know, we don't need to go into all that sad. It's just very sad what has happened to humanity from this space of just extreme separation from their divine source, right? And that generally is, you know, the shadow path has that. So as we make this change, we change for the better, we change humanity, and the path of the light gets brighter, and the path of light is going to get stronger. So I hope that's helpful, Carrie. And it's just really important to really understand that both paths lead to the light. It's a matter of choice of how we go through it. It is absolutely, both paths lead into, not only to our divine, it's like if you're going to let's say you're going to, from New York to California, just as an example. Well, you can get there by plane, you can get there by car, you can get there by a rental car, or you can get there by an old jalopy, you can hitchhike, you can go by train. I mean, you know, it's just, what's the path? And then is the train, you know, first class, or is it, you know, did the train get derailed? I mean, you know what I mean? This is my point, is you get to choose how you go through this. You get to choose how you go through this. That's the whole point. You can go through it on the path of the light, or you can go through it on the path of the shadow. All right, is this helpful to you guys? And I'm going to scroll down and see if I have questions down here. But Carrie, I hope that's helpful to you. Okay. All right, I'm looking for questions, but Sarah, thank you. I always love having you on the call, Sarah. You know, it's like I love being a light worker, and I love what I do so much. I love it so much, and it's always my joy and happiness to share this. You know, it's definitely always nice to have people providing positive, you know. Let me go over to the chat over here. Nobody on the chat. Nobody put anything on the chat in the other one, in the webcast. Oh, I know why. Maybe that chat room didn't open. Now, let me look at the Q&A here. Okay, I don't know why I don't see too many Q&A questions coming in. So I see Judith, it looks like you have a hand raised. Can you put it in the Q&A? Are you able to, Judith, or in the chat? I don't know, maybe you're just on the phone. Let me see where you are. I can't tell. But it would help. And I would be happy to take your question if I can see it that way. You're funny. All right, so I was saying you're funny to you, Sarah, because you said, and there's nothing you can do about it. So I don't see necessarily questions about this topic area lighting up in here, but I hope this is helpful. And what I want to do, I do want to talk a little bit about the names. But the most important thing, I just can't say enough, is, I'll say this just right before I go into the names part, and that's that it's not an easy task to excavate your own unconsciousness. It's not an easy task. It's challenging to find your own blind spots, especially if there's areas where you've been stuck for like a long time. If it's like a money block or a relationship block, if it's a struggle with career, or relationship blocks are going to be a big deal next year. It's just a lot of two. Two is a relationship. And relationships aren't just to other people. They're to, we have a relationship, even our relationship to authority figures. And, I can't watch most of these authority figures talk without my stomach turning. So I know that that's like an area where I'm out of balance. Like if you show me just an image of like any of those figureheads right now, the talking heads who are promoting what we call a false agenda, trying to control the mainstream narrative using the mediocrity media. Right? There's reasons that these words are here, because people are in the shadow and they don't have the discernment to know. That's why I love nameology, because it is a tool of discernment. My stomach still turns, so I know that I'm not like completely there, but my point of going here is that it's not easy to excavate this stuff and to look within ourselves at our parts of ourselves that have been stuck or blocked, and it is the way into the light. It is the way into the light. And it does not mean you have to make yourself bad or wrong. It just means you have to be willing at where you feel that you've been, or you've experienced your life in some way as either trapped or blocked or limited, or not in the richness and fullness of who you truly are. Because who you truly are is love. Who you truly are is light. Who you truly are, we all are, is the essence of the divine, the essence of joy, the essence of happiness, the essence of abundance, the essence of well-being. And those essences need to be both activated and reawakened within us and cultivated, while at the same time really identifying anything that may be blocking us or hindering us from them. And that is the excavation we do. That's the work I do with people very directly in the class on the 5-week Ascension support group. That's what we do, right? To help and support people in there. And I mean, it's to me like the best work you can do. So, all right. So, yes, I think that's the wrap part on the shadow light part of the two paths that I wanted to talk about. And I'll talk a little bit about names, since we're dovetailing. So nameology, which I've been utilizing pretty much since Maui, when I lived in Maui, I started utilizing it as a tool. It didn't occur to me for a long time. It really never occurred to me that the reason I got into numerology and nameology, which were two tools I started to develop while I was living in Maui. I mean, numerology's been around for like an eternity, right? I mean, I just started developing it because at the time when I was living in Maui, I wanted to make friends and I didn't know anybody. And I thought it would be a great way to like break the ice and meet people, to do their numbers. And then numerology has a way also to do nameology, but that's not the same thing as sacred nameology. But so while I started getting into it and I was doing people's numbers and then I do their numerology, nameology, I started seeing other patterns and I started noticing patterns and I started playing with nameology and learning about people from their names. And I loved it as a tool to get to know people. But after Maui, in the years after, when all of my sensitivities opened up, and I am a highly sensitive person, as many of you are also. Many of you are also highly sensitive people. And as highly sensitive people, it is a challenging space to navigate between the old paradigm and the new paradigm, as many of you well know. And it's very hard. It was very challenging in those early days, finding my way out of that path of the shadow and into the light and navigating it. And so the tools of nameology and numerology were excellent tools that I could rely on to help me navigate. And at a certain point, because I was like so sensitive back then, and I didn't even know, like now I'm so well versed in like turning it on, turning it off, cutting cords, clearing fields. Like it's just for me. So now I've been doing it for so long, it's pretty effortless. So now nameology is a fun thing I get to use for my friends. I mentioned my friend earlier who has a new guy she's dating, and you know, the information that's coming out now is in his name all along, but she wasn't ready to see it back then. That's okay. But it's just a way to navigate, right? But I also could see how not only is it a way for me, I love to help my friends with it, and I use it for additional insights. It's one of my tools in my toolkit. It's also very helpful on the world stage. Very, very helpful on the world stage. And if we look at some of the names on the world stage, now if you were on the Facebook program last week on my Facebook page when I did nameology, you would definitely have heard this, but one of my favorite names to use is the famous mad scientist doctor whose first name is Anthony and last name is Fauci. And I can only translate this for you very clearly as I possibly can. The name Anthony is one who seems to be and appears to be an authority figure who cares, and in some cases the name Anthony would include that the person actually does care. The name Fauci, on the other hand, means, and you can bleep me if you would like, big fat effing liar. There's no other way to translate that name as far as I'm concerned. Big fat effing liar. A person who should not ever be trusted, period. And if you're on the predictions call, as another hint, you will know more about how that is going to play out. So I will give another name. Let's take the celebrity Gwyneth Paltrow, who I happen to think is a lovely lady, right? But that's opinion. Who cares? Not here nor there. The name Gwyneth also associates with the name Guinevere, and it is one who is often pursued by men or has flirtatious engagements, or who is seen as quite a beautiful kind of woman to engage with in romantic. And just if you look at, interestingly, some of her roles, Gwyneth Paltrow, we're doing the name Gwyneth right now, not the Paltrow, but the name Gwyneth also corresponds to Lady Guinevere. And just look at some of the roles she's played in her movies, right? So Gwyneth is a person who, she starred in a movie called Emma, which was about like a matchmaker, which that's what the name Emma means, a matchmaker. That's what the name Emma means. And that's what the movie was about. It's just so funny, right? It comes out. And then she was in the Romeo Juliet movie with Ralph Fiennes, right? And I know she's been in like a lot of those kinds of romantic movies. Now, it's just funny because you can see it in her name. And that's a nice aspect of nameology. I also say the letter G typically corresponds to one who makes gains in life. So typically, the G letter means someone who can make great gains, very often financially. And the letter G does have to do with gallant. And if you just look at her name, some of the movies that she's been in are like about like relationships with gallant types of characters. It's funny. It fits her. So, yeah, I mean, that's in her name, and it's helpful to know names, right? It's just a nice, fun thing. The P in her name, P for me, I have P in my name, S-P, but it's not the first letter. So when you have a first letter P, it will also signify power struggles, especially with the opposite gender or something that is in polarity to you. And I do believe she had at least one divorce, right? She had a divorce. If your last name begins with a P, I once had a woman, oh wow. P is one of those names when you have the first name of a first letter of P especially, it means you're going to have power struggles in your life as a leading letter. So that's an easy thing to see in her, right? With a divorce as an example. All right, so I want to use another name, and we'll use the name Bill. And we'll just mention briefly two Bills who have been in high offices, one who was a president and one who we can refer to right now on the world stage with the last name that starts with a G, right? Since we were talking about G, great gains in life. The shadow side of the G, by the way, is to profit at someone else's expense, to profit to the harm and detriment of another, which is contained in the letter, a hard G, 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 not a soft G, but a hard G. Now, especially in the first initial, but we're sticking with the name Bill, and Bill, in and of itself, is a cheater and a liar. That is the name Bill. Now, not all absolute, doesn't mean all Bills are cheaters, because they have middle names, they have last names. So we're not calling every Bill out there a cheater. We're using a president and a current person who's a figurehead, talking head, who is standing to profit, who holds many patents on vaccines. He holds many patents that make him a profit on microchip things that could be inserted into somebody with a vaccine, for example. So what we're saying here is that the name Bill in this case, and the first name who was a president, was a cheater, had indiscretions. I did not have sexual relations with that woman. Cheater, liar. Okay. Now it's helpful to know. If you know nameology, you can start to spot these things. It's just fun. Let's take the name Oprah. Okay, Oprah means makes everything bigger, enhances everything, expands everything. O, the letter O. Fullness and wholeness. And Oprah is carrying that. Over the top, it can potentially have weight implications. I have an O in my letter, in my name. That's been a challenge area in my life. Weight-related issues, but she does Weight Watchers, but that is an example of Oprah. Now, and by the way, the H on the end of her name suggests that she likes to be helpful. She does want to be helpful. She wants to be a helpful person. But isn't that interesting too? She does have a P, and she has had some major power struggles in her life with other people and or authorities. So you can see it in her name. Anyway, I'm just using a few examples because it's really fun. But when you know names and you get to use it as a tool for your own, first of all, just the fun of it. It's a fun thing. But I'll say one other piece. This is a kind of a slightly more like, just kind of personal to me. I think on my own journey of just, my ascension process, at certain points, because I was so sensitive, I became aware that I had a hidden fear underneath. It took me a long time to clear this fear out. I would say I really cleared it out in the year 2020. Actually, I'd probably say 2019 leading up to May of 2020. And after that, that was when I kind of resolved it all. But resolved means like just no longer an issue. But it really escalated in the final months of 2019 and into the first couple of months of 2020, which a lot of you on this call, Sarah included, you were in my 5-week Ascension support group at that time. I was packing up my house and I was moving across country to Sedona. This was the time I was starting to clear that out. But I had this fear of people. I mean, I wasn't aware because I loved people. I wasn't conscious that I was afraid of people. It's a very predominant starseed type of thing, that starseeds often have that because in the storyline of a starseed is like when you go down there, you're going to deal with a lot of aggressive people, and you're going to have to deal with very confrontational people. And starseeds are not confrontational. We tend to be very, we tend to prefer, non-confrontation. That's like part of our mission here. So I wasn't aware of that in myself until it really got shown to me. Like our shadow stuff keeps increasing until we see it. And you can't run from your shadow. It knows where you live. I used to say that all the time. And so I became so aware of this that I eventually had to face this part of me that was afraid of people. And by the way, my old dog, she wasn't old. I loved her so much, but she transitioned at that time. Once I finally got that lesson, she was afraid of people. She was really afraid of people. And during the 13 years that I had her, that was the thing I helped her to resolve, her fear of people. And now it wasn't until after she transitioned, I was like, I totally get it. That was me. Right? Well, anyway, because if you guys know me, I teach how our animals are showing us that stuff too, right? But anyway, the Nameology became a tool to help me know, is this person someone I can trust? Is this person someone I can trust? Is this person someone trustworthy? The name Sarah with an H on the end, by the way, is significant of someone who is very trustworthy, even with your shadow. The S letter is a letter that can handle the shadow when it's in the beginning of the name. My last name is Spagna, S. It's someone who can handle shadow with sensitivity and care. In the name Sarah, since you're on the phone, or on the call, Sarah, and with an H on the end, is someone who is extremely helpful and able to handle the shadow. So, anyway, but I realized that Nameology became a tool for me to know who can I trust, because I needed to know. I had a P in my name. I was dealing with power struggle people, and I'm not a power struggle person myself, but it was in my family name, and it's showing up in my life, and I wanted peace. P can also be great peace, one who values peace, but that's the light side of it, right? So, in any case, I came to realize how Nameology really helped me to know, who can I trust? Who might I have to be a little more wary of? Who's being honest? Who's being deceptive? Where might I want to, be mindful in terms of how I deal with this person? And just became a helpful tool for me. Now, in reality, I'll say the other thing about Nameology that I love is that very few people really know it. From what I can tell, there's very, very few people out there. My way of doing Nameology was taught to me through my source. I didn't study it in a book. It wasn't until I wanted to teach the class years later, way later, after Maui, when I left Maui, and a long time passed, and I thought, I want to start teaching this. It's fun. I never felt like it was like my main theme of work. but it was like, this is fun to me. I love my work. It's not all about just trying to make money all the time. It's about sharing, fun, and play. But the thing is, because there's so few people out there, years later I started doing research. I started to meet some people who do it, who I will be happy to recommend when I will be, sharing more of that in the class for people. But what I want to say is they do their modalities completely different. Theirs is totally different. There's not a lot of people out there. Most of them do it based on numerology or some form of number identification. That's not what this tool is. This tool is source, given to me by my work with source and through my questions and asking and guidance and learning and study, practice, application, doing people's names over the years and learning how to use and apply it. So the thing is like, you could make a business out of it. I mean, if you took the nameology teachings and you started to apply them, and then you're looking to become because I can tell you that's another theme for 2022. I mean, this will come out in the predictions call too. We've gotten a few hints of it already, but yeah, there's going to be a whole workforce migration. I mean, the writing's on the wall, right? You can see that. But more and more people will be leaving the workforce and starting their own businesses, and it will be a fabulous online business if you want to cultivate it and use nameology as a business. It's so fun, easy to learn, easy to apply, and fun to practice, and has a variety of uses, not the least of which is using discernment to know, like, what's this person about, and, what are you dealing with when you're dealing with this person who's carrying this name, because the name is chosen by the person, pre-incarnation. And, I mean, there's exceptions to that, but generally speaking. So, anyway, if you are interested in joining me, now, I promised that I would give someone a bonus. So if you stick around and if you're still here, I'll tell you about how you can get the bonus of the free class. But I want you to first just take a look, if you would like to, I'll put the link in here, of the nameology class coming up. And I would love for you to join me if you would like to learn more about nameology. It's a great thing to do during the holidays. As I mentioned, I'm putting it in the chat. I didn't see any chat comments in there, but I'm in there on the chat on the audio portion. And then on the video portion chat, I'll put it in here so you can see the link. There it is. So it starts on Tuesday the 14th. It'll be like an hour and a half call, hour to an hour and a half at most. And then again the week after on Tuesday the week later, the 21st. I mean, I think it's a really fun thing to do during the holidays because, first of all, there's a lot of people who are still mostly stuck at home, but also because it's a nice place to have some camaraderie and some fun during, a time like this when, I don't know, stuff's going on Earth. And I just like community. It's not too heavy. It's pretty light. You don't have to be there live. Of course, it will be recorded. And of course, so if you can't be there live, you'll still get the recordings. And I do it on video and on audio. There's a lot of bonuses that come with it too. So everybody who's already registered already received the full course. That I've taught before. There's an ebook that I have of like all the names and how to know the names and how to apply it. There's a worksheet of how to practice it. There's a lot of PDF handouts that come with it. There's like expanding your knowledge on it, and it's very fun. So if you would like to join us, now if you're sticking around and you want to register, do it now. Because anyone who joins now, one of the bonuses, while we're live, not later, please don't ask me afterwards. This is one of those boundaries. I have learned this. Last year I learned about boundaries so much with my retreat people. Like, you give and you give and you give, then they take a little more. Can I just stay another day? And then it's all, can I just stay another hour? Can I just get a ride? And then it's like the whole week. Like, so many boundaries. So this is a hard boundary, like live. If you register while you're live, you will also get the the free Learn Numerology class. I will never teach that again. And it's a full class, and it's really good. And it's really fun. And it's a home study, but you'll be able to ask me about it during the live calls too. So if you register while we are on the call together today, I probably should have said that when we started, but we still have a healing to do. We're going to do a Lightworker healing. So you just go over to LoriSpagna.com. Under the live events tab, you'll see that Sacred Nameology link, and you can register there. And you will, it's in here, Judith, here. Here, I just put the link in again. You'll be able to register and join us live. And then anyone who registers, this is the bonus for you showing up. So if you're listening in replay, I'm sorry. That's why I want my people to show up live, because I do it live. I mean, I love doing the calls no matter what, but it's fun to interact with you and being part of our sacred community. So as a bonus to anyone who's registering live, while we're on the call live for Sacred Nameology, you will get the full numerology class gifted to you. That class is being uploaded this week into my annual membership, because I will never teach numerology again. But I taught it, and it's fun, and it's a great tool, and it's easy to learn, and it's fun to play with, and it's a great accompaniment. But you have to register while you're here live, because that is the bonus that you get for being here live, okay? All right, I think I made that point. Let me scroll and see if there's any questions, and I would love to address any questions that may be in the Q&A tab, and then we'll do a final Lightworker healing, because now I wanted to be done within an hour and a half. We're going to go along for the healing portion, but it's Lightworker service, so it's entirely up to you if you want to stay for that. So I'm just going over to the Q&A on the audio. I don't see any questions. I don't see questions on the chat. Okay. Let me come back over to the video and scroll again and see if I see anything. Thanks, Sarah. You know, I don't know. I wanted to do a call out for Stacy. I don't know if she's on the call. She wrote me the nicest letter. I tell you, I work with people, like a lot of people over the years. I was helping this one woman with something that was like just a really big hard stop in her life. When I say hard stop, like a gap for her, just a block for her, and she couldn't really see it. I mean, we worked on it for a while, and I mean, it was like lots of downloads and shifting and changing, and it really has changed her life. And I just always love when people share their results with me. And Sarah, I mean, Stacy, I don't see you on the call, but it was just such a beautiful email she wrote me about how much her life had changed. Oh, and you know who's the other person? I want to shout her out too. She wrote me the SJ. I don't know if you're on the call right now either, SJ. I don't know if you're on the call this moment, but that note that SJ wrote me about how her life has changed was so nice. Touches my heart. Like I don't know if SJ's listening right now, but it was such a nice letter. She said she's done DNA activation calls with me now multiple times, and she said, I just can't tell you what such a phenomenal difference it has made. She sent before and after pictures, which I can't share because she didn't give me permission. And I'm only saying her first name, but she knows who she is. And you can see the physical changes and the internal changes. And she's just saying so much peace, love, and gratitude. And makes me so happy. Right? Of course, I love always hearing about just the results that you guys have, and makes me so happy to know, because I can only say that the whole purpose of the Path of the Light is because it improves the quality of your life, like exponentially, like beyond measure, because it's unlimited. So your life keeps improving. And even though the bumps along the way are challenging, the bumps on the shadow path are really tough anyway. So we can see they're not graceful or easy, but at least the Path of the Light is always constant improvement, and the quality of our lives improves, and things just keep getting better, and the quality of our friendships improve, quality of our relationships, our health, our well-being, it all always keeps improving. So anyway, SJ, thank you so much for that. And Stacy, if you are listening live or delayed, thank you so much for your email too that you sent. It was all about, she wrote all about how much she loved the community and the camaraderie in the 5-week Ascension support group, and how much that changed her life for the better, and that she would never have been able to make it through the last year, the last 2 years without that Ascension support group, and that she couldn't wait for another one. And it affected me, it influenced me. I was like, I got to get that back on the schedule again. So it is on the schedule for next year, the 5-week Ascension support group. And I loved her, you know, because we really do create a nice community in my calls and my workshops and my classes, and also in the retreats. So, okay, I see Judith. She says, she's known me since Hawaii. Wow, that was a long time ago. I felt far more aligned in 2000 and later. I have been in lack of moving forward. I cannot be alone in this, especially during these times. Trouble meditating, concentrating, grounding, or even wanting to socialize. Simply lethargic, apathetic, and no desire. How can we kick ourselves in the butt? Oh, well, you don't want to kick yourself in the butt, sweetheart. I love you. I want you to put your hands on your chest right now. All of you, everyone. And talk to that part of you, whatever it is, lethargic, needing a kick in the butt in your opinion, which isn't really true, lonely, alone, scared, frightened, whatever part, sick or feeling health-related, whatever it is. Put your hand on your heart and say, sweetheart, beloved, it's a term of endearment. I love you. I'm here for you. Breathe into your heart. I will never abandon you. I love you. I've got your back. I'm here for you. Let's breathe that in. Sweetheart, I'm with you. Sweetheart, I love you. Beloved, you matter to me. Beloved, I'm here. And that's the first thing, Judith. You don't need a kick in the butt. You need some love, right? You need some support from yourself. All right, I hope that's helpful. I know it's a little thing, but it's a big thing. It's a big thing. All right, I haven't gotten to a question yet, but I jumped right in there. How can we kick ourselves in the butt, leap faith forward? Thank you for always being in my inbox when I need you. Oh, that's so sweet. All right, so that's the first thing. Judith, I want you to practice giving yourself love. Like, this is stuff we did in the self-love class. Please, please give yourself love every day. Take time. Breathe. Sweetheart, call yourself term of endearment. I love you, sweetheart. Beloved. Darling. Oh, my darling. What do you need right now, darling? You have to become your most best friend and your best parent to yourself. You can give that to yourself anytime this external world is challenging. That's the first thing. The other thing I wanted to ask you, Judith, is that lit up for you. And I know this, you know, 2022 isn't going to get necessarily brighter for the collective. You have a lot of shifting to do. What the shifting is going to happen from inside. If we're walking the path of the light, it's going to get better. Right? If we're walking in the path of the shadow, it's going to get harder. That's why this is so important to understand this delineation. But Judith, my question to you is, and you can plug it in if you would like to, but your birthday, are you a Pisces? And we're not here for astrology necessarily, but it's lighting up that some of your confusion is linked to two things. One, your astrology. And it might not be that you're a Pisces even, but it is what I understand. We're in the middle of a gateway. What is the purpose? If you heard this in the beginning of the call, what is the purpose of a gateway? A gateway is, think of what happens when cattle is steered into different, on ranches, different corrals. They want you to go this way, then a gate shifts, and it wants you to go that way, then a gate shifts, you want to go that way. It's like they're steering the cattle. That's what gateways do. They are steering us, and sometimes the way it's steering us is one direction, then another direction, and another direction. And it's because ultimately we want to be in the path of the light, but we can't always find our way out so easily in the shadow. And so that sometimes can show up as like, I don't know where to go, I don't know what to do, I'm stuck. There's a lot of hard angles that just happened. We had, and it's building until December 19th, the Saturn-Uranus square. It's a hard angle. And when you're following that, you end up in a corner. You're cornered with nowhere to go. Now, if you're in the path of the light, it's going to be easier because you're going to know that when a square is building, you're not trying to push forward, force forward. Do not try to force forward. It's flow you want, flow. So I hope that makes sense. That's part of what I get going on. That combined with you have this, if you are a Pisces, I don't know if you put that in, but there is, and I'm not here to do astrology. This is another one of the tools I have. I have a very big toolbox, and it's what lit up. But I'm looking to see if you put it in there. She lost the link again. Here's the link. I'll put it in again. Nameology. It's under LoriSpagna.com under the live events tab. Okay, so I didn't see if you put in your, okay, I got a little distracted. I got to read what Sarah wrote. But, so, it lit up for you, because the other piece of why I asked if you're Pisces, there's a Neptune, there's like Neptune stuff. Neptune is very watery, and it just washes over us and makes things unclear and uncertain, and it's playing a big role right now. So, some of that was lighting up for you, Judith. I'm sorry, because again, it's like not a one-on-one reading time, but if you would like to, one thing I would recommend to you is, well, you can certainly do the Nameology class where you'll have more access to more Q&A, but the focus, of course, is Nameology, even though I always say nothing's ever off limits with me. But I would really advise you to join us for the 5-week Ascension Support Group, because I can get in deep. And let me just say something else about that, too, is, first of all, you're not alone, Judith. Like, people are feeling this way as we're being kind of guided into the light. But while we're in that shadow, it's challenging. So you're not alone. There's people all over Earth feeling this way these days. And, it's part of like the dark night of the soul that the collective's going through this period of time. And it's really challenging. So my heart goes out to you. And I want you to know you're not alone. And that's one of the reasons I'm doing this community call. I mean, this is a community call. It's not like I can spend an hour on a person, but so we can be together in community and help expand our consciousness and up-level and shift and, find loving support to the best that we can. So I hope at least that's helpful. But the other thing I want to just say about that 5-week Ascension Support Group, which I really recommend for you, is this. In the awakening collective of people sort of coming up out of 3D and doing inner work, but they don't necessarily yet resonate as a starseed or a lightworker or a psychic or an intuitive. They're still like a little more mainstream of doing like inner excavation. They do things called coaching calls. And coaching calls usually look like somebody listening to you and then asking you a provoking question. So, like a provoking question for you, Judith, would be like, well, what is it that makes you feel lethargic? I'm hearing you say you're feeling, it's very therapeutic, like the way therapy works, only coaching because they're not therapists, right? they might say, well, what makes you feel so lethargic? What do you think it is? And when you think about the lethargic, what lights up for you? Or, you know, they might start asking, and then you spend about an hour doing what's called digging. They might not call it digging, but that's usually what it is. A coaching call could take an hour where you dig, and at the end of the 60 minutes, you get to one thing. I know because I've been on those calls. One thing, and the one thing is good. The person makes progress. Like for them, it's a big deal. But in my 5-week Ascension support group, you get 20 minutes or 30 minutes. Like there's a whole group of people there. We're working on you, with you, and you will get so deep, so much, so expanded, healed and resolved on things. Like you'll just have like so much transformation in 0 time. It's so phenomenal. So when I'm sitting on those coaching calls, I'm like, well, that's good, but they're missing this, they're missing that, they don't see this, they didn't hear that, they didn't address this, they didn't address that. 50 million things pass by. It's like, oh, they're going to have to work on that on the next 50 million coaching calls. I'm exaggerating because I have an O in my name to make the point, but it's the point. So that's why I love the 5-week Ascension support groups, because you'll get way more than you even think you can get, and it's all good. And it's not painful. There might be some tears in there, but it's always like tears of release and tears of healing and tears of joy, and the rest of it is all like, oh my God, thank you. So I highly recommend it, and I hope that's helpful to you. Okay. I just want to say, Sarah, that's the nicest comment you just wrote. She said, you have assisted me so much with anchoring solidly in my own heart space and remaining secure in sacred neutrality. Oh, that makes me so happy. You are a true gift to this world. We are so grateful. Oh, Sarah. Thank you so much for saying that. So nice of you. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you, Sarah. And then she wrote, you are so loved and sweet and amazing, Judith. Isn't that so sweet? Sarah loves everybody. She does. That makes me happy. I love when people support each other. You know, that's what we need to do during this time. That's what we're here for. That's going to be one of the major lessons on planet Earth next year. All right, good. So let's do our healing, group healing. We'll just take about 10 minutes and do the final piece in a Healing for Humanity. And we have 27 people right now on the video call, and then on the audio portion. I'm just looking for the number, but for whatever reason, this webcast's not refreshing the numbers, but there's at least 7 to 10 people here. All right. So, yeah, and just right before we start, if you want to register, I will know by the time we hang up. By the way, if you register for the Sacred Nameology class to join us during this live call, you know you get the numerology class for free, like included. And that numerology class in and of itself is a whole class. It's another $400. Like, that's what you get. But it won't come immediately. I have to manually email it to you. So just give it 24 hours. All you'll really get is just initially a receipt, a thank you. But just stay, you know, you'll get it within the next, by tomorrow. Okay? And I hope you will join us for Sacred Nameology, because it's really fun. It'll be fun. All right, now, meanwhile, if you're staying for, yeah, I mean, there's tons of I do cover some astrology, numerology of the upcoming year, but most of it's downloads of information of what's ahead. Someone made a comment about that. Oh, you put your astrology in there, Taurus, Sag, Ascending. Oh my goodness. Here's the link again. She keeps asking for the link. All right, well, you just had the eclipse, Judith. You know, that eclipse is going through your Taurus and Sag. That's the eclipse. Of course, it's affecting you in a big way. Last year and into the coming year. It's big for you. If that's your Taurus, Sag, Ascending, well, you can only have one of those ascending. So, but I don't know. Anyway, I can't do your reading right now, but one of those signs, whether it's Taurus or Sag, is your ascending sign. But that's where the eclipses are, Taurus and Sag, that we just had. And that's a year of, it affects you for a long time. All right. It's helpful to know this stuff, to navigate your path. But, I mean, obviously, In the 5-week Ascension Support Group, we have time to go into it. We're at the end of the call now, and I really want to get like a little bit of Lightworker healing in. So, okay, this is going to be a very brief and kind of light meditation, but powerful nonetheless. If you haven't already, please make sure you drink water afterwards. I'm just going to take a big gulp, so forgive me for a minute. I hope you don't hear my drinking sound. But you might. Okay, now, what we're going to do for this is we're going to use a pattern of sacred geometry. I'm going to lead you in the meditation. And if you don't know what a pattern of sacred geometry looks like, the easiest one you can use is, well, if you know what the flower of life looks like, that's really a great pattern to use. Or if you don't know what the flower of life, you can look it up right now really quick. Just search flower of life on the internet. If you don't know what that looks like, you can use a Vesica Pisces, which is the easiest also. 2 intersecting circles, that's fine too. Now, that's all you need to see in your mind. So I want everybody right now, if you're going to participate in this, I mean, we haven't started the meditation. First, I just want to set you up for success. In your mind, see a flower of life. If you prefer any pattern of sacred geometry, but don't go too far out there because some people are really into this. We want to keep it simple. Flower of life or a Vesica Pisces. Okay, 2 intersecting circles that create a 3rd circle in the middle, like not an overlap in the middle. Okay, that's what my that's a Vesica Pisces. 2 whole circles that intersect and overlap. Okay. If you don't know what a flower of life looks like, otherwise you can look up flower of life. The only other one I might encourage is Metatron's cube. If you want to use that, but I would stick with flower of life or Vesica Pisces. Now, so for everybody participating, just touch your head for a moment, feel your head with your hands, close your eyes and feel your head. Just feel your head right now. With your eyes closed without your hands now. That's what I mean. You can feel your head, you're in your head space, right? Everybody can feel your head. And while your eyes are closed, just see in your mind the image, if you can, the image of the Vesica Pisces or the flower of life. See it in your mind. And as long as you can see it in your mind and you can feel your head, you'll be good to go with this meditation. If not, stay with us and just intend for the best, right? Good. Get yourself nice and comfortable, feet on the floor. Quick and fast meditation, service to humanity. Very easy. Take some long, slow, deep, relaxing breaths. Feel the belly fill up with the breath. Identify the breath as a breath of love so that you are literally breathing in the energy of love. And as you are breathing in the energy, feel for your head again. Eyes are ideally closed. Feel for your head with your mind's awareness. And this time, rather than feeling for your head, drop down and start feeling for your heart. Feel for your heart with your mind's awareness. That's all. Breathing in love. Exhaling love. Feeling for your heart. There you go. And when you get into your heart space, you'll start to notice all the other areas of your body that are tight. Usually shoulders are tight, relax those. Usually buttocks and waist and back is tight, relax that. Take some more breaths of love, fill up the belly, and drop deeper into the heart. Feel for the heart when you drop into it. That's it. You guys are there. You're just breathing in love. And you're going to keep doing that. You're going to relax anywhere in the body that feels tight. Breathe in love. And when you breathe in that love, you drop into the heart space even deeper. And if there's anywhere in your body that wants some love, that can't relax or is still tense or is bothering you, direct the breath of love to that area. So breathe in love, move it down to your knee if your knee is tight. And then drop down to the heart space. That's all. That's all you do. I'm going to say a prayer to initiate this healing meditation. the one true source, Creator God, the original source of creation of all that ever was, all that ever is, to oversee and orchestrate all activities working in, through, and around us. Now surround each and every one of us in your infinite omnipresent love, your infinite omnipresent awareness, your infinite omnipresent light, your infinite omnipresent wisdom. Ensure that all that is done here and all that is said here is of the light, in service to the light, and our role in your plan for all of lighted creation. Ensure that all that is done here is 100% positively uplifting for all beings involved and all beings concerned, with zero harm and zero detriment to anyone or anything. We give thanks now that this is done, as we are unanimously agreed that this should be so. We know it is so. It is so, and so it is. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we also call forward at this time the archangels and the angel gods to assist, to guide, and to lead, to ensure that God's will is done here. When we say God, we mean the one true original source of all that is, all that ever was, and all that ever will be. The infinite, omnipotent presence, awareness, love, light. We call forward these archangels who are ready, willing, and able, and the angel gods as well, to assist, to serve, to support, to lead, to guide, to ensure, and to be with us, present here now. And with the one true head of the archangels, Michael, please cut and discord any and all connections, attachments, entanglements, and snarmers, which are not of the light, which do not serve the light, which may in any way, shape, or form be siphoning and or draining us in any way, shape, or form. Ensure that all beings here now, both live and in delayed playback, are completely and totally surrounded in their pure, perfect God's primordial gold. And that is surrounded. Each and every being here now and in delayed playback is surrounded in pure, perfect primordial platinum. And that each and every being is then there surrounded in pure, perfect primordial crystalline, as it is done now. We allow and we let it be, knowing that each and every one of us is in our own perfect, pure primordial gold, perfect, pure primordial platinum, perfect, pure primordial crystalline, and that all energies coming to us and through us are of the divine source, the one true original source. And that we are but light workers in service to that source, living here on the physical plane of earth. And we give thanks now for the loving support of the angels, the archangels, and our one true God of light creation. So now as you're breathing in this love, just shift just slightly to the vibration of gratitude. So allow yourself to be breathing in the energy of gratitude into your heart, just dropping into the heart, being aware of your heart center, and allowing yourself to expand that energy of gratitude all around you through the expansion of your breath and through the exhalation of your breath. Breathing in gratitude, gratitude that you exist, gratitude for this moment, gratitude for one another, gratitude for source, gratitude for breath, anything and everything. Breathing in and exhaling out. And now from your sacred heart center, breathe in and become aware of the image in your mind's awareness, the image of the Vesica Pisces, the two interlocking circles, and or the flower of life. And as you breathe this image and become aware of this image, you're breathing in symbiotically, both at the same time, love and gratitude, with this image of the flower of life and or the Vesica Pisces. Take that image with your mind's awareness and project it above the earth in any direction. So see in your mind's awareness the image of the earth See the Vesica Pisces and or the flower of life above the earth. Now see it below the earth, like on the other side. See it to the left or the west of the earth. And see it towards the east of the earth. Have no concern for doing it perfectly. Intention is the most important piece. And now see it overlay onto the earth perfectly. Just a pattern that brings earth into alignment with its own divine perfection. The flower of life. Restoring life on earth. That's what the flower of life does. And also restoring the perfection, the divine perfection to earth. In your sacred heart center now, drop into your heart, still aware of the connection of your mind's awareness. Seeing that beautiful flower of life above the earth to the north, below the earth to the south, to the left or west of the earth, to the right or east of the earth, and right overlaid over the earth. And breathe in that love and that gratitude. And now put your palms up, facing upward, on your lap or to the side of you. Many of you have already had this activation, but we're going to do this now. Michael is going to instill this activation. It's a flower of life in the palm of your hands. It's already there. So just allow the sense of the flower of life being gently and lovingly impressed as a code in the palm of your hand. Now, there's nothing for you to do but allow. If you don't want it, keep your palms facing downward. If you want it, palms upward on the lap, and put mind's attention and mind's awareness to the palms of the hand. And you'll focus or feel a gentle pressure. It's being done for those giving consent. And just breathing in love and gratitude. Allowing your palms to energetically receive the imprint of the flower of life, giving life to all things, and restoring all things to their state of divine perfection. That's what the flower of life does. And you're just gently breathing in that love and gratitude, allowing and feeling and sensing on the palms of your hand. You'll likely notice the fingertips start to pulsate a little bit, little gentle thistles of light or tingles of light. And when you feel that light pressure in the palms and the tingles at the fingertips, and even if you don't, that's okay, just breathe some more love and allow. But when you do, and your fingertips are sort of faced upward, almost like there's a ball, an energy ball a little bit in the palms of your hands, take those hands when you're ready and turn them face down towards the earth now, at the seat side by side to you, like either side of your legs, just gently. And let that energy now of that flower of life go down into the earth as if your palms are putting it down through all the layers of earth. Layers and layers. Dirt and rocks, minerals, sand, watery depths, ocean floor, empty space, center of the earth, crystalline core. That you become the channel for this divine perfection to move through you, from you, given to you by the higher realms, and now anchoring more fully into the earth. It's been there all along. It has been there all along. We're not really doing something new. What we're doing is aligning more of these energies into the whole of earth, so that Earth Gaia Sophia herself feels it even more, and so that the rest of humanity can more align with their divinity and feel the call. That's simple. Just feel, sense the energy coming out your hands. No way to do it wrong or perfect. Your way is the right way. Intention is the driving force. Breathing love and dropping into the heart and allowing the energy to move. Feeling and sensing and knowing that these activities have been orchestrated in and through us by the one true God, the original source, and are being overlighted and overseen by the angels and the archangels we called in. Very simple is the work of the light. Breathe in now some more love and gratitude, and when you're ready, turn the palms upward again, rise them up and bring them towards the heart, knowing that that perfect perfection, divine perfection, is in your own palms. Bring it to the heart center, palm over palm, and allow this beautiful energy of this beautiful perfection to come through the heart center and radiate through your being, just reverberating through you. Flower of life and or Vesica Pisces, perfection, divine perfection, sacred geometry, patterns of perfection. Just allow, feel and sense and notice and breathe and drop into the heart even deeper. Breathe and relax, breathe and feel. Very simple and yet very powerful. Feel and notice. I just noticed the fan above me is making some noise. That's what that sound is. It's a good practice to not let things in the external world disturb you. Just receive it. And before you unclasp your hands, once you really start to feel that energy moving through, take a moment and reinforce what we did earlier. Tell yourself, I love you. You matter to me. You have value and worth because you exist. I appreciate you. I bless you. Say it to yourself, either out loud or silently. Feel it and breathe it as you say it. Breathe it in. You're telling the universe, when you say that, you literally are saying, you literally are telling the universe that you will be one who continues to live free from the shadow aspects that are plaguing humanity right now. I love you. You matter to me. You have value. You are valuable. You are worthy because you exist. Because you are here. Breathe that in. Breathe it all in. And then when you're ready, come back center, space in the room, knowing that you have been surrounded by your own perfect primordial love, right? You breathed it in. Nothing's interfering. And we ensure that this is so throughout the remainder of the evening for each being participating and even in the delayed playback. And we let this be done. So good. So good, good. How is everybody? Did you like that? How you all doing? I want to thank you for sticking around with me. I don't see any other questions on the chat in the audio. I wonder if that, but it's still recording, so. Right, it went way longer than I thought. I'm going to let you guys all go now, but I would love to unmute everybody to say goodbye really fast. So I'm going to just do that really fast. I have it so far on the audio. So you guys, you can scream or say goodbye or I love you or anything, but let me unmute everybody over here. Yay! Gosh, best sound, all your voices. Love you guys so much. The bright lights that you are. Shine your light for everybody on earth.
Thank you.
Love you guys.
Thank you. Love you too, buddy.